It's harvest time in my backyard container citrus grove. Today's video is about Bloomsweet grapefruit, also known as the golden citrus. I've been growing this variety since 2011, but maybe you've never heard of it. That's because the fruit is not commercially available. This leaves it up to the backyard gardener, and that's me. It's believed to be a natural cross between pomelo and mandarin that originated in Japan during the Edo period. That's roughly 1603 to 1868. One thing that we should all know about citrus is they're not reliably cold hardy, but in May of 2011, I chose to plant this tree in the ground on the south side of my home here in Austin, Texas. And I did that because of its general cold tolerance, rated down to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. In February of 2021, when Winter Storm Uri came through, it passed the test, but more details on that later. For now, let's discover what makes this fruit so unique. If you're new to the channel, I'm Scott from New Garden Road, always out here to inform, inspire, and elevate you. Encouraging biodiversity and restoring habitat is my mission, one garden at a time. This unique variety goes by many names such as Kinkouji, the golden citrus, or as I like to call them, the Bloomsweet grapefruit. But it's not a true grapefruit. They have a sweet and floral aroma and are often described as tasting like a lemon-flavored pomelo. While they do exhibit mild tartness, they lack the sharp bitterness often associated with grapefruits. The shape will vary from oval to round, and they'll ripen from a dark green to a beautiful lemon yellow. But enough of that, let's harvest one and try it out. Okay, so here's what I came up with. Now this one's got some unique dimpling on the rind. This is not what I typically see, but I did get several this season that I think it was due to insect damage, that they've got, you know, some spots on them that just don't look normal. This hasn't proven to have an effect on the quality of fruit in most cases, but I want you to look at a few different examples. There are some you can see that it's clearly something has gotten to it and maybe nibbled on it. I noticed this really early on after the fruit set. When the spring came around this season, we had a pretty significant outbreak of caterpillars. This was not the giant swallowtail caterpillar that normally hosts on this tree, so I was a little bit confused as to, you know, what was going on here. But nonetheless, it didn't cause any catastrophes in my harvest, but I just want you to know that that is something that's not typical. I do have one here that looks a bit different. This one has a really bad case of sun scald. Now, can that affect the fruit? Absolutely. And what I usually see is pre-harvest drop, where the tree will actually cut its losses and reallocate its resources toward the other developing fruit. Okay, I think it's time to dig in. I'm going to show you, this is what I like to do. Ooh, the smell of a fresh citrus, the essential oils start to get pushed out and you can smell them instantly. It's a chilly day. My hands are pretty chilly, but I think I can pull this off. This really helps to loosen the rind, and as you start to peel it, the pith that is clinging to the fruit and some of the segmenting will be a little bit freer to come away. But I keep working at it until I kind of feel it loosen up, and when they're good and ripe, they'll have some juiciness to them. So here I am at the stem end, and this is where I usually, whoa, that sounded awesome. Wow. Oh my gosh, you have to savor every bit. It smells good, but like if you taste it, it's pretty bitter. Okay, you see that? Some of this pith here. If you don't like to eat that, that'll come off pretty easy. Okay, I've mentioned this before and you'll hear me say it time and time again, but this is one of my favorite citrus. They're all my favorite. All right, so segment came off really free. Lots of pulp on there, but I'm just gonna go for it. I like to eat them kind of in half, and that way if they've got some seeds in the middle, you can expose that and it'll come away freely, or you can just spit it out. Mmm. 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 Oh, it's so good. Although we haven't had a freeze this season, we've had enough cold weather that it's done a good job of sweetening up these fruit. So it's pretty much exactly like I described it. You know, no surprise there. I've had a ton of these, but I've never had a pomelo, so I can't really compare it to that. It does have what I would describe as a lemon-like flavor, but it's got some grapefruit flavor in there too. It's so sweet and juicy. If you enjoy this content, consider joining my Patreon, and together we can sow the seeds of sustainability for many seasons to come. Thank you. Earlier, I mentioned Winter Storm Uri. This occurred in February of 2021. At that time, this citrus tree was at least 15 feet tall. It was a really beautiful specimen. Even though I planted it in a really protected area here on the south side, up next to my house, which helped a lot, the temperatures that we got down to here were like single digits, and for an extended period of time we had 6 days below freezing. While being cold tolerant down to 14 degrees Fahrenheit does count for a lot, you have to take into consideration the depth and duration of the freezing temperatures. It simply wasn't practical for me to save the entire canopy of this tree. But what I did elect to do was wrap the base of this tree around the graft point where the fruiting scion was grafted onto the rootstock. And that proved to be successful, because here 4 years later, after several hard freezes and several winters that have really tested this tree, it lives. It has come back. I have taken care of it, nurtured it. Last winter I elected to do something different. Essentially, I built a tent around this tree. I went above and beyond. I wrapped it, kind of like an upside down umbrella. I did that with some twine. I put some Christmas lights around it. These were incandescent lights, so they were a source of heat. And then I wrapped it with frost cloth. And then I put a tent around it, and I put 2 layers of frost cloth over that. This tree was looking pretty good. It was coming back, it had a nice shape, and I felt confident that we were headed into the season where it was going to flower and fruit for me. Now, in previous winters, I had only wrapped the base, which had enabled it to survive, but it lost all that top growth, so it just kept setting it back. So after 3 years, I decided to try something different, and it paid off 100%. So the first season, after 4 years, I have got fruit, and I think I counted about a dozen fruit. I'm really happy for them. And as I went in there to harvest this fruit, you know what I saw? Some beautiful blooms. Just about to open up. Now, we've had some mild weather here in Central Texas. We haven't really had a freeze in my garden. We've still got to get through the rest of December, January, and February. But man, am I grateful. All the work, all the time and energy. What kind of price would you put on this slice of citrus, knowing all that? I mean, it's just priceless. I've gotten all my citrus from the Natural Gardener in Southwest Austin, and they have been sourced from Brazos Citrus. If you're in Texas and you're looking for a beautiful and delicious, fairly cold tolerant citrus tree, you should check out the Bloomsweet grapefruit. Now check out more awesome gardening videos on my channel. Like this video and follow New Garden Road for weekly content. You can grow your own food. Keep it organic.